What?
What?
No, just one of my websites is undergoing maintenance. Like, what the fuck, man?
All right. Well, we are live on YouTube now, so I'm going to go ahead and get us rolling. Anything that anyone wants to jump in with?
No, let's do this.
Yeah, Manny's stuff is dying on the internet, huh?
Yeah, I'm fucked. I need to figure out what's going on here. It seems like Teachable is down. That might be the only reason. Satya, is your school down?
All of your stuff?
Yeah, my school is Teachable.
Oh, okay.
Satya, is Teachable down for you as well?
Or is that something else?
Go.2000books.com.
Okay.
Satya, is your school down as well?
I've not checked, actually. I did not know about that.
See if you're seeing any challenges there. Oh my God.
I don't mean to laugh, but this kind of stuff always, I'm just like, oh,
it always happens
technology day.
It always happens in the middle of when you're trying to sell or making a, promotion.
Yep. Yeah, it says undergoing maintenance. God.
I thought I was special. Somehow they had put me under maintenance.
Another day on the internet, something's broken.
Oh man, it's way to hear that someone else's shit is broken too, rather than to know that it's only yours that's broken. Because when yours is the only one broken, something is wrong with you. But when everyone else is broken, then it's not just you.
Yeah. Right. Misery loves company, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, fun stuff.
All right.
So you're doing a sale right now, Manny?
Yeah, just like it's not a sale. It's actually prices go up. So I've changed my philosophy from doing sales to prices are going up. So add more value and increase the price rather than here's a sale. So it's the same kind of urgency, but it never devalues the product.
Yeah.
And kind of it's more fun to sell that way than it is to constantly offer discounts. I think discount is a dangerous, never-ending machine.
I agree.
But some sort of scarcity and urgency where you can close down enrollments or increase price or take away the bonuses, that's way better, I think.
Well, and I've seen a lot of people just, they get in that cycle of, oh, I've got to do another discount. And basically, it boils down to, I've got to do another discount because people only buy when there's a sale.
Right.
Usually they get trickle in and then, nothing.
Yeah, that takes a toll if you get into that discounting.
Yeah, over time, people will only buy when you discount. That's one thing. And then unless you are like a giant like Walmart or something, or like Udemy.
Yeah, Udemy does discounts all the freaking time.
Yeah,
Udemy is the Walmart of courses.
Yeah, but what I think Udemy's value proposition is that people only buy when the course is at that price. People don't buy otherwise.
Oh yeah, I never buy Udemy courses at full price.
Mm-hmm. So the full price is just a way to make people think that maybe to get their wish list ready. When the sale happens, you can go buy the real deal.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I've advised any number of people, if they're looking at a Udemy course, I'm like, just wait. If you don't need it today, give it a week or two.
Mm-hmm. Right. Most of the times you don't need it that urgently. So
yeah, get on their mailing list and they'll email you and let you know when it's on sale.
Yeah, and if you just go to their website, you'll see so many like constantly they're popping it up there.
Yeah, if I were one of their authors, that would drive me nuts.
No, but so the way they do it, I think they have categories. You can decide.
Well, if you decide not to discount, I am certain that
You
they
won't
do
make
not
any
give
sense.
you they do not give you the attention. You're not
Right.
you're not your course is not displayed in good places.
Well, so people like Seth Godin and those guys, they don't discount, but then they still highlight them as
Oh,
those.
Seth Godin has a course on Udemy.
Yeah,
Oh, wow. Well,
yeah.
then
Seth Godin.
he probably has a special deal with them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, the other thing is they know that course will sell.
yeah, exactly. And there's a positioning play as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's kind of a different animal there.
Yeah.
So today I have a hard stop at 10 o'clock.
So do I.
Okay,
Let's
good.
finish it up.
Let's finish it up.
All right, thoughts.
I know, right?
Yeah. Sometimes it takes that much time. Yeah, so I'm going through that promotion as I was telling you guys, and it's interesting how YouTube and podcasts don't really drive that much sales volume compared to what email does.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Trying to see. But that's also partly my fault because I didn't really get it out to the YouTube and podcast world in time. But even then, the numbers are way smaller than I would have anticipated.
What's the ratio? Like how much different?
Like 5, maybe
5x?
no, 5%, 10x, 10% maybe at best. So 10x.
Okay.
List versus YouTube and podcast.
Okay.
So my tracking is not perfect right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm only looking at the people who are I'm looking at the orders that came in. I'm excluding the ones who are on email list, and that's leaving me people who are not on the email list are either from YouTube or podcast. That's my idea.
Oh, okay.
And I do want to. So, do you guys know anyone who does all the analytics and tracking and all that stuff? Literally install all of those systems and processes and tags and UTMs and all those things. Because what I want to do going forward is have a system where the links and everything, everything in the website has tracking.
Well,
UTMs.
so it is actually not a very good idea to give somebody else. I mean, you can outsource that task, but you should create a list of things that you want to track. Otherwise, it becomes, oh, I want to track everything. Then you don't. It just becomes.
Yeah. No. So
yeah.
So I do want to track for the sales processes. Really, everything else I don't care of. So
yeah. So you
what
have
exactly
to define.
do you want to track?
So I want to track something like, okay, when someone comes into my funnel from day one, or let's say right now we're doing a sale, right? So I want to pixel their audience, Facebook pixel, Google pixel, and all those things, so that I can simply just create an ad and let that pixel do all the work for me from tracking and knowing how many people are clicking, buying, all of that. Same for Google Ads Manager, same for YouTube Ads Manager, or Google Pixel, which allows me to do the same if I choose to go do a YouTube ads or Instagram ads. So basically tracking the whole journey using pixels across the board. Not just Facebook pixel, but also Google pixels and all those.
So no matter what person you use, one thing I would say is make sure that they give you a list of things that they're going to implement, and then you get it implemented, right? So
What do you mean?
Otherwise it becomes as if you don't know what needs to be tracked. And by default all the pages have tracking pixels, so you should be able to just put one piece of
They already
code.
have. So
Yeah.
I already have my Facebook pixel installed, my Google Analytics pixels installed, and all those things, right? They're all on the web pages.
Right.
It's more of being able to now use them properly.
Okay.
Which means, how do you get the best data from them? Something like every email link that I send out should have inbuilt pixels for Facebook and Google Analytics and all those things, right? So they fire off those pixels,
Right.
and that triggers sequences inside the ads and things like that, which right now I have no idea of.
Yes, the only thing is that I want to make sure that when you implement this thing, you tell the person, or at least get it verified, that the path is right. So sometimes it's very easy to get confused. Let's say the purchase complete page, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you don't exactly specify this is the purchase complete path,
Mm-hmm.
it is very easy to get some other page which sounds similar or looks similar, and you end up tracking the wrong things. Right.
Yeah. Okay.
So that path, you have to clearly tell them, maybe create a spreadsheet or something, that these are the exact pages
I want to track.
Yeah, these are the exact pages.
Yeah, exactly. So what I would like ideally is to sit down with someone on a whiteboard, show them my customer journey, and have them kind of show me, okay, what we need to do is set this event here, set the, like you have your Google Pixel or you have your Facebook Pixel, set the events here, set whatever else needs to be done, so that when it's triggered, certain ad shows on the back end and leads to the sales page, and the sales page leads to the cart, and the cart leads to the thank you page, and all of those, like all of that sequencing and events and all of those. I think if I were to sit down, it would take me a week to figure all of this shit out.
Yeah.
Like to literally install and put a system in place and machine in place, but not sure if that a week of time is worth doing compared to having to pay someone else to do all of this, and someone being an expert to do this.
Right. You still have to verify though. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, the good thing about verification. So here's where I profess stupidity. Okay. I was thinking that I need to sync up my email with my Facebook database, and like Facebook is not allowing me to upload email list right away because they need some seasoning of the account and blah blah. So it's becoming a mess, right? So I was like stuck trying to run Facebook ads, and then I found out that all I had to do was embed a pixel in the link in the email using these link shorteners services that are out there, which are dime a dozen now, right?
Right.
In the link you can basically put all sorts of pixels, Google Pixel, Reddit Pixel, everything. So as soon as you do that, now suddenly you have the pixel firing off, and your sequence will be working without you having to do all the monkey work that I was initially thinking of. So stuff like that, like as soon as the guy told me, I was like, shit, I don't know anything about this area. Maybe I know a little bit here and there, but for me to try to do it would be, I don't think that's a good use of my time anymore, because of because how much these guys know and how useful they would be if they can do these things.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Compared to you and I messing and breaking our head against the wall trying to figure this shit out.
Right.
And it's very frustrating to go through that process.
Right.
But if someone maps it out for you and then you learn it, then you have then you can always go and modify and change and play around with it, because you get a new perspective on what's going on.
Right.
Yeah.
So looking for some analytics guru, not a Facebook ads guru, but more like someone who's tracking, who's able to help me with track and do all of those things.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
You may want to hire Baiduria if he's available.
Oh yeah.
Hire who?
There is a mutual friend. His name is kind of difficult to pronounce, but he's also Manny. He's also Manny, actually.
His middle name is Manny, so it works. I'm not sure if he has, because I know the last time we were talking, he was kind of just starting to get his feet wet on Facebook analytics, Facebook ads, right? So he may or may not have that level of sophistication.
But that was a while back. I think that was a few months back. So.
But he's been doing other things like promoting ClickFunnels and shit.
Okay.
Well, I'll talk to him. I'll see how much,
how
good he is with that. But yeah, maybe I'll talk to him, and if not, maybe it's worth posting in Teachable, asking if there are people know there who can help.
Interesting.
Yeah. Are you doing anything right now, Satya? You're not really running any promotions, are you? Or
not right now, but before
your Evergreen is not working either?
No, I've turned it off. I've turned off everything. But before the end of this year, there may be another, pre-sale kind of thing.
For what?
For the same courses, for the same 3 courses. And there is a reason for that. I cannot publicly say yet, but once some good events happen and I'm publicly able to say it, then I'll explain why I want to do another promotion.
Okay, cool, nice. Yeah, I'm doing a promotion with John next week, and that's partly the reason why I'm like getting all into analytics, because that's the time when and I'm just going through my promotion this week, and then John's next week.
Right.
So all the analytics are up in my face now. Like,
yeah. Well, and we're doing a podcast episode in 3 weeks.
3 weeks. Yeah. Yeah. Which one? So I asked you in the end, was it going to be mental toughness or social skills? We didn't really, or did we call it? Did we say that, or did I?
I don't remember.
We should pick one or the other, whichever one. I think either of them is sellable. Depends on what you guys want to do.
Yeah.
Okay. What's new with you, Chuck?
Well, we've been doing a big push on SEO.
Oh, nice.
And so I've got so Asley, she's been on my team for a while. She's been doing show notes, and then we promoted her because Michelle was just taking on way too much, and so we handed those responsibilities off to her, and that's worked out really nicely, actually. She's been taking that on and been chasing down a lot of the social. So she's doing the social networking and the.
Who has the SEO knowledge in your business?
So I bought a course from Neil Patel.
When?
Last month.
Oh, okay. So it's fresh.
Yeah. And I've been really happy with that. It's been getting us results. I mean, it's
already.
Oh yeah.
Like, but okay. Tell me more. What do you mean? What kind of stuff has he showed you?
So he started. It was funny because initially he started out with stuff to bring people back, right? So it was like push notifications. And yeah, after I think we've been doing this for about a month, and we've got a few hundred people now that get our push notifications every week, or every time we push one out, which is multiple times a week because we push all of our episodes onto those. And then we've got email, like prompts for people to get on emails.
That's part of the SEO course?
Yeah.
That is surprising.
Yeah, it's interesting, all of this stuff. She's now going into past episodes and doing keyword research and then working some of the keywords into the text on the page.
Okay.
We've started we lengthened our episode summaries because we figured out that Google likes 500 plus words on a page. So it's a lot of stuff like that. And then we're just going back and we're getting more SEO onto the pages that we have that are getting traffic.
Yeah, that's the way to start. Go to the pages that already have traffic and build those up.
Yeah.
I would like with podcast and YouTube, here's one thing I've figured out with regards to SEO. Especially with podcast, the interview content doesn't lend itself directly for people to sit there and read that damn thing.
No.
So you really have to convert the interview into an article, into a blog post. And that's a different kind of content. It's not interview anymore. It's more like 5 skills you must have as a Java developer, rather than the interview with Mark Coleman, where he talks about being a Java developer and blah, blah, blah. So you really have to start with the topic in mind and write an article based on the topic. And the interview just is an ancillary at that point, where for people who are listening to the podcast, they'll listen. Because if all you do is rewrite the interview or snippets of the interview, you're still not going to get any kind of on-screen time because people just don't care to read that shit. So you really have to convert the content into an article. So think of it like this.
That's more or less the direction we've gone in.
Yeah. So you want to meet them where they are rather than try to force something down their throat. So if someone is coming to the website, they're more interested in reading blog posts than they are in reading interviews.
Yeah. And usually they're coming, I found a lot of people because they want, a link to something that we talked about or, something like that. If they're coming directly off the podcast. So
that's not SEO traffic yet. SEO will build up when you get people who are interested in a topic, how to become a JavaScript developer.
Yeah, exactly. So that's where we're working this other angle. And I may turn some of that into longer form content at some point, but right now it's we're getting 500 to 1,000 words on each episode that we're putting out there, but we've got some episodes that get, a ton of traffic every month. And it's because people are looking things up like, the history of JavaScript or something. And it turns out that, we have probably one of the most popular interviews with Brendan Eich about the origin of JavaScript. And so, people go in and they check it out and they listen and then hopefully they subscribe. And so it's things like that we're, so I'm actually working on going back and, putting the deeper length on the show notes. Right. And and then we'll just flesh it out a bit at a time and see how much traction we can get off of that. But I'm also looking at other content now and trying to figure out how we can do some of that because, he talked about some other forms of content that may pay off. So,
yeah,
the real thing that honestly that I'm struggling with a little bit is we started all these shows back at the beginning of the summer, and like the blockchain show. We had 3 hosts. One of them just disappeared after like 4 or 5 episodes. Another one, it's just been tough with his schedule. And so he bowed out. So there's only one guy left. And so I've been filling in to make that one work. And then that guy, his wife had a baby last week. And so he's out. And so I'm trying to make sure the content goes out. And then, we're having some struggles getting some of the other shows to be 100% consistent, some of the newer shows. And so
what this tells me is that you need to create systems and process for course A before you launch course D and make sure that thing is stable rather than go.
You mean for each podcast?
Yeah, or
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
podcast A should be
basically,
stable before you launch
Yeah.
podcast B.
Right. I agree. The other thing though is that it's taking up a lot of time for me, and I need to spend more time, chasing sponsors and things like that, since that's kind of my primary gig within the business. And so it's been tough just balancing all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And if I'm out of town, then it makes it doubly hard, because then I've got to figure out, if I'm even going to make it. So yeah, it's getting better. It tends to be better when we have guests show up every week, because then the hosts can kind of automatically have something that they know they're going to talk about. But yeah, that's been pretty tricky. So yeah, I kind of learned a bit on this round. But like the open source sustainability show, they've been pretty solid. The DevOps show has been more solid when they have a guest to talk to, but they have gotten together a few times to chat. But yeah, we had one of those hosts drop off the radar. And so anyway, it's been interesting trying to keep all of this stuff in the air and then go chase.
Sounds like you need a show manager.
Yeah, I have. So Michelle's been doing a lot of that stuff, but yeah, I'm starting to lean toward maybe finding somebody to jump in and be a show manager for some of these new shows. And
for all shows, being like the person, so you can be the one who's all about the sponsorships.
What do you mean?
Like one person who's responsible for making sure that all of these shows move according to the plan.
Yeah, and that's kind of been Michelle's responsibility, but
kind of been, or like, is she able
well,
to
she
do it?
also manages the production team.
So here's what I'm thinking, and I was talking to John as well about it this week. In the book Build a Business, Not a Job, these guys talk a lot about the idea that your job is not to do more in order to make more.
Right.
Your job is to make the business do more.
Yeah.
In order to make more. And in fact, the more you think you need to do, the less the business does.
Huh. I'm kind of I'm just thinking about kind of what you're saying here, and I'm wondering if I should just bring somebody in and say, look, your job is to get new shows to lift, right?
Yeah.
Or I mean, they may or may not have that kind of experience, but if their job is systemized and processed, like these are the things you need to do every single day in order to make sure the shows show up on time, then it's going to be much more realistic for that person to be able to do it.
Yeah, we have a lot of that as far as just getting shows recorded and released. The trick is with the newer shows, they just don't have the momentum that the other shows do. And so that's the trick is, we need to put a system in place for them to, okay, look, these are the things that you've got to be doing to build the momentum. And some of the stuff eventually Podwrench is going to manage, right? It'll email every week and say, hey, here's what you're talking about. Here's who's coming. Here's blah, 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 right? Mm-hmm. But I think I just need to pull somebody in and say, essentially, hey, look, you've got to reach out to 5 new people every day who could come on the blockchain podcast as a podcast host. Right?
Dude, that's probably a big role all by itself.
Yes.
Right.
Like, just do this for blockchain, do this for AI, do this for this, do this for that. And that's their whole job, being the outreach person, managing the whole outreach and bringing in guests so that you have your pipelines filled for the next
thing. That's what Michelle's been doing, but she's been doing both. She's been managing the production pipeline and the onboarding pipeline.
So find the person for the job that she doesn't like to do, or the one that's easier to do, or the one that's cheaper to fill, or whichever it is, and force that down to the new person. Like that thinking is very liberating. It's not about you doing more, but the business doing more. And it's not going to happen if you always believe that you have to do more.
Yeah, that's true.
It cannot happen, because then you try to be the superstar. As soon as you try to be the superstar, the business suffers.
Yeah, I like
Well-
it. The other thing is I've also been spending a lot of time fixing issues on the website, and I need to hire that out too.
Mm-hmm.
And just be
Yes.
and just have somebody there and basically say, look,
Yep.
fix this. And I have a developer working on Podwrench, but I don't want to split his focus. So I
Yeah.
may just bring somebody else in and just say, hey, look, your job is to keep this running. It's not a full-time thing, but
Right.
Yeah,
one thing to keep in mind is that don't outsource the interesting things, because there is a chance that so the things that you find interesting, outsource them last.
Mm-hmm.
right.
Because I got into a situation once where all the interesting things were outsourced and I was doing all the grunt work.
Right.
And it happens, you want good people to work
Yeah.
with you, so you want to give them some interesting stuff to do. But if you do, so right now I feel that I like to do, 50% I'll do grunt work that I don't
Mhm.
want to do. And the other 50% has to be preserved, right? That is the
Yeah.
thing that I want to do. So that is something you need to think about. And the things that you outsource, ask them to take complete ownership of
Yeah.
the thing, and it makes a huge difference. The
Yeah.
way you communicate with them. And I don't know whether I talked about it last week, that I have a business which is completely run by somebody else,
Yeah.
right? And she completely understands that it is her business to run,
Right.
and therefore I get very few questions, if ever. And she has complete knowledge
yeah.
about the whole pipeline as well.
I
And
really like it, actually. Just because if I could hand off, you're talking about don't outsource the interesting stuff, but honestly, what I want is, it's interesting to work on the website. It's been kind of fun to pull all that stuff together.
Mhm.
But I'll tell you, if I didn't have to do it,
Right. Well, it's also what part of that website thing do you find interesting, right?
well, I
Do you
like
want-
experimenting with stuff. But the flip side of it is that what I really want to do is make more content, and I don't have time.
Yes.
So you're telling me don't outsource the interesting stuff, and I'm like, I'm not even getting to the stuff that I'm really interested in. So
Right.
so
that's,
all of this other stuff I could outsource, and I might miss it a tiny bit, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. That's the key here. I think.
I'm a little worried about the overhead that it adds.
Yeah,
But
that's part of the
flip
challenge.
side is then I'm spending more time doing sales, and so
Yeah.
so I should be able to even that out, and then I can dedicate a day or two out of the week to making the content I want to make.
I think that is the quintessential small business problem for the founder, the owner. Like, how many people can I hire to do XYZ job compared to how much money I can pull in to fulfill them?
Yeah.
And I sincerely, I think I've thought a lot about this idea that the business that can afford to hire the most people or the smartest people will always win. Because you just
that's
can't
probably
compete
true.
with a business that doesn't have enough people. Like, try being a solopreneur and competing with a business that has 10 employees. You're just going to get crushed by them. There's like, it's just the nature of.
If they have the right people on the bus, yes.
Most of the times.
And most of the time they have people who are close enough.
Most of the times a business that is coming along and that has 10 people is usually doing okay things rather than just wasting everyone's time. The solopreneur is likely to waste actually more time because they don't even they cannot get to the point where they can hire other people. So
the other problem is of context switch also, that when you work on many different things, then it is just the mental energy required to make the context switch.
Nothing high quality gets done.
Sometimes I find it very difficult to even have two different things in a single day. And then things suffer. Like I stop emailing people. That's the first thing that goes out of the door, which means that you can potentially lose business and things like that. But the context switch is it's a big deal. I did not realize. I mean, you could say that, you work on two on this thing for 2 hours, then okay, then work on this other thing completely different for 2 hours. But you simply cannot, it's not very easy to make this context switch. Like if you're reading a contract, right, even if it is boring, you will push through it. You will just go through it, and there is some momentum that you want to complete this thing. But suppose you're doing something interesting and then you have to do this contract work. It is just so difficult to make that context switch, right?
Yeah.
Especially during the end of the day or something like that, when you are at the end of your, you're fatigued, right? You cannot make that switch early on. But suppose you start the day with something boring, okay, fine, you will keep doing it. And if you dedicate like 4-hour chunks to it, then it will get done.
Right.
But frequent context switch is really, really difficult to.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is even from day to day, sometimes it's hard because it was like, I walked out of here in the mode of, writing email sequences, and tomorrow I have it booked in so that I'm going to be working on doing more of the SEO stuff.
Right.
And, and so I come in and my brain's still in email land instead of SEO land. And so then I have to force the context switch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, a day is actually a pretty good chunk of time. Compare that to what most
and once I get my engine running, it's fine. But
a day is still pretty good. Like
a
ideally,
day is still pretty good. Splitting the day into 2-3 hours, that's the tough one.
Yeah, and most people are doing 30 minutes here, 30 minutes there, 30 minutes here, 30 minutes, which is the most dangerous, right? Which is the worst.
Well, that's not working. They're just context switching.
Yeah. Well, actually, to that point, most people are actually working for 3 minutes, checking their email, working for 4 minutes, checking their Twitter, and then there's a notification of news, and then there's a notification of something. So that's their whole work day in the office. Like that's exactly it.
Yeah.
And that context switching is so debilitating. You end up getting, 20-30% of your real productivity, like 30% of real output that you could have produced, even if you just work for 4 hours that day. So the larger the chunk of time anyone can get, the more value they can create, I think.
Yep.
Right.
The larger the chunk of uninterrupted time they can get.
Yeah. So that's kind of what I want to tackle, because then I can work on some of the other things that I really want to do that I'm not at yet. So you're making me feel better about hiring people.
Yeah, and also, but one word of caution is that be very sure about the downside. Your calculations should be you should know exactly what is the downside, right?
Right.
The amount of money you're spending and those kinds of things. That calculation has to be very accurate.
Right.
The upside you don't care about, because it will take care of itself.
Mm-hmm.
And if you try to make a lot of guesses based on the upside calculation, then that's a mistake. Right. So things like, okay, if I hire this person, they don't work out, and 3 months of work is lost, then I lose whatever money. Right. And is it going to change? First of all, I mean, in this case, it doesn't matter, but is it going to change? Is it going to put my company in risk? Right. In this case, hiring will not, but I'm just saying that suppose you're taking a big project, then you have to make that calculation. In the worst case, is your company going out of business?
Right.
And there is survival is the most important thing, right?
Yeah.
You have to survive to fight for another day. And the downside calculation should be independent of the upside calculation. Upside calculation, you don't care as much about that. I mean, if you base, for example, I'll give you an example. If your calculation is based on, I will make so much money and therefore I'll be able to afford it, that's the wrong kind of calculation. Right. But if your calculation is based on, I will be able to afford it even if I don't make any money,
Right.
then that's the right kind of calculation, right?
Right.
So, and it's crucial because companies fail because they run out of cash,
Right.
right? And sometimes they take risks that is completely unnecessary, right? Like there is this saying that there are certain kinds of risks that you cannot afford to take, and there are certain kinds of risks you cannot afford not to take, right? And hiring in this case for you can be of the second kind, right? You
Yeah.
cannot afford not to take this risk because it's a small bounded risk instead of a large unknown risk.
Right. No, that
So,
makes sense.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The downside, I mean, yeah, I'd be out a little bit of money, but
Well, you're hiring contract, right?
yes.
So that's definitely a bounded downside.
Yeah.
In some ways. And also, if you know how much time you personally have to give compared to how much time, if Michelle can be the one training that person,
Yeah.
Michelle or whoever that person is, then that takes care of also the time investment you need to make.
Right.
So then it frees up a lot of your effort to do,
yeah, but as far as as far as any of the rest of that goes, I mean, Michelle wouldn't be training the person that's, fixing issues on the website per se, but it would take a lot of that off of my plate and allow me to focus on this other stuff.
Right.
Well, you got to hire one, unless you have the bandwidth and the team to hire multiple people. You want to hire one person and make sure that is working before you hire another one.
Yeah, well, the person I'm looking at is somebody who's worked for me before, and he's done a terrific job. So.
Oh, okay. Well, then you already know.
So I'm not that worried about it. And then I'd probably just, basically for the, let's save these shows one at a time. I mean, I have people on my team who have extra bandwidth and that I know would work out. And so I can just get in and just, I can have Michelle train them because it's all stuff that she's doing anyway. It's just more of that.
So give them an additional role, or?
Yeah, I would just give them an additional role.
Rather than like splitting the same role amongst 5 people.
Well, their role would be essentially, on the, it'd be very similar to Michelle's role, except they would also be recruiting hosts.
So Michelle
doesn't really do that.
You're splitting one role into 5 people or something like that.
Yeah, I'd be splitting one role and adding another person essentially to that role.
How many people would be filling that role now?
Just one, just Michelle.
No, she would be teaching to others. How many people would that be?
Probably just one other person right now.
Oh, okay.
Because what we're looking at then is we're looking at just one person essentially doing Michelle's role, but they'd be doing it just for one show or 2 shows. And their job would be to make that show successful. So that's kind of what we're looking at for that. But yeah. Anyway, if we're going to do thoughts, we probably ought to do them soon because I have to get off in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Why
didn't you start, Manny?
It's been a stream of thoughts all morning.
Yeah, but this has really made me feel better about some of the things that I've been thinking about. So I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Great.
Yeah, I'm going to actually re-emphasize the whole thing because it's on my mind as well. Getting the business to do more rather than getting yourself to do more. Because if you get yourself to do more, you really don't build a scalable, sellable business. You just become, you're the expert, you're the star, you do more, and that's why the business does more.
Yeah.
But if you get the business to do more, you actually are building an asset for the long term.
Well, and it's exhausting. Holy cow.
Yeah. And there are times when you enjoy it, but there are times when it's really exhausting. And there are times when you just cannot afford to do anything because life has taken over. And in all of those situations, if everything depends on you, you're royally screwed in the business.
Yeah, there are definitely things in the business that only I know how to do. And that does worry me a little sometimes.
Yeah, but one step at a time, right? One
Yeah.
step at a time, you get the business to do a little more and a little more, and a little more.
Yep.
But really, productivity is an archaic concept in my, especially after reading those two books, it's really changed my philosophy.
Which is the second one?
Clockwork.
Clockwork and the other
Clockwork,
one?
so good.
Build a business, not a job.
Okay.
Both are really good.
Okay.
The philosophy, they're similar philosophies, but the idea that, hey, productivity was never the goal. It was sold to you as the goal. Productivity is the goal to get the maximum out of your time, but that is not the end result. The end result is the results. How do you get the results, and how do you get the business to get the results is the key question you need to ask yourself, rather than filling up all your time. Productivity sometimes can mean how can you fill up all the time and do a lot more, while results-based thinking is saying, how can we get the results by deploying the right productivity principles, deploying the right time management principles, deploying the right leverage and strategy and all those things. So the end goal is not necessarily just doing more, but getting the right results using business.
No, that makes sense. And it's, yeah, I agree. Yeah, because you get paid based on your results. You don't get paid based on your,
Right.
Oh, I spun my wheels for 6 hours today. Good for me.
Yeah, you get paid based on the business's results.
Yep.
I have a great example here. Let me quickly tell you a little story. So recently, there is this the library, OpenCV library. I'm the CEO of that foundation, but Google gave us, Google Summer of Code, where we have mentors, and then there are people, students, interns who apply for that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the mentors. So my project, the person I got, I had to fight for that person because I know he's very good, exceptionally good. So there is this exam in India. There is a joint entrance exam for top engineering colleges in India called IIT JEE. He was fifth in that out of a million people. I don't know, between 500,000 to 1 million people apply for that. He was fifth. And
Satya and I both applied for it, and we didn't rank very well. We still got in.
we got in, and we. But
yeah, so fifth is anything within the first 100 is insanely good.
Insanely good, right? But the measure that these guys were using to see how good somebody is, their open source contribution. And he did not have much because his internship was with companies and stuff. So I said that I'll take a risk on this guy. And, he turned out to be spectacular. I used to spend 15 minutes every week with him, maybe 15 to 20 minutes. And I would tell him, this is the path, and next week it would be done, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the project was done successfully, nothing smoothly, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's another mentor who also hired somebody from a good university, but they let the person slack a little bit. That the person said, "Oh, I'll do it," and in the end, the project was not successfully done, and this mentor had to spend a lot of time, not trivial amount of time. I spent literally 2-3 hours over this 3 months. And the mentor spent about 40-50 hours, 60 hours with the student, right? And the project is still not successful, right? So, and the funny thing is that I get this thing that, oh, you didn't do anything, you got lucky. I said, no, let's be very clear that it is not luck. I put my effort at the right time, because if I did not do that, I could have got a student who was not right for this job, right? So there is a judgment involved, and also the direction, right? Telling the student
Mhm.
from the very beginning that, this is your show, you have to be responsible for this. All those things, they matter, right? So my point is that uh, it is not the amount of effort you spend. Who cares about the amount of effort? It is the end result that matters. So I was just confirming the story.
Yeah. And you get it done from others. Like the business gets it done. In this case, the business being the other guy
Yeah.
you had, rather than you being the person getting it done,
Yeah.
which is
Chuck,
the biggest change in mindset we need to have.
Yep.
right? Your thoughts?
Um, yeah, I mean, so I've been reading a book called All In.
Mm-hmm.
It's, I can't remember who it's by, but it's about building culture in your company.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the things that they talk about, just, I mean, it really boils down to just, the same thing that we're talking about here with people and how you treat them and how you, how you look at what they do and things like that. And there's a ton of value in creating the kind of culture and the level of responsibility and things that we're talking about here, for a company. And so people know what the expectations are, they know how it fits into the master plan and things like that. The more willing they are to get involved and get the problem solved. And so anyway, I'm still kind of digesting a lot of the points out of the book, but yeah, it's been a pretty spectacular read. And so my thought really is just I think a lot of people, they get this idea in their head that the culture stuff and the people stuff is just supposed to kind of automatically happen according to whatever fantasy system society is made up for business. And the reality is you actually have to work on that stuff too.
Right.
I agree.
So yeah.
Cool. Okay, so I can tell my final thoughts before we leave.
Yep.
So my thoughts are about, small businesses, like I mentioned last time, they should operate on assumptions which are very different from big companies. So you can look at Silicon Valley companies and think about the opposite, right? If the opposite can be true for your business. And if you find something interesting, that can be very useful. I'll give you one example is about, while we are talking about, people and personnel, is about loyalty, right? So it is super important. There are 2 or 3 different things that are very important when you hire somebody. One of them is independence, whether they can independently work without taking up your time. If they can, that's gold. I mean, competence, people say a lot of things about how clever or smart they are. It's you just require a very small amount of smartness or cleverness. It is independence, that even if you're taking a long time, you're able to figure it out yourself, and you have that confidence to figure it out yourself. That is the kind of person you want. And they will get smart. The brain is, by repetition, by learning to do things, by giving them independence, they are going to learn all that stuff. It's not difficult. Most of the people don't learn because somebody comes and helps them out. And the second thing is about loyalty. If you can create a team that will last, the team members will be with you for 10 years, 15 years, then it's a very different kind of game you can play, right? Like when I have subcontractors and when I'm doing a business deal, I usually simply call them up over the phone to get our side of the bargain, right? We decide, okay, this is what you're going to charge. It's all done over the phone without having a contract in place. And that helps me move very fast when I'm dealing with a client. My internal team contract, some of them are contractors. I can have a call with them and decide within minutes what I can offer to the client, right? And that is only because I've been working with them for 3-4 years. Some of them I've been working with 10 years. So there is a level of trust that is developed when you have a team which you have been working with for that long, right? So that is something big companies do not think about, or not big companies, other startup kind of companies don't think about, because they are there for 3-4 years, right? They thinking, oh, what can I get done in the next 3 months, instead of what can you achieve in the next 10 years. So while dealing with employees, if you have that mindset that if the person is good, if the person is not good, I want them out in 1 month. But if the person is good, I want them to continue for at least 10 years, right? Then you can get a lot.
Yep.
So
Makes sense.
all right. Unfortunately, I have a hard deadline.
Yeah,
right
I've got to
now.
bail too.
Okay.
All right,
It
I'll
was-
continue on with the meeting, guys. You guys-
Okay, guys.
All right.
It was nice
Yeah.
meeting you.
Yep.
Thanks.
Bye.
All right. Bye.